So I want to give this a try. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I thought I would do a quick video that kind of goes through and shows you how I kind of pick things out and put together a paper for a literary essay. So I'm starting with the question, and we have two questions for resistance, and one of them is this. What connections do you see between the way the leader in the story, Pan, came about and any of our current desires in society? So always start by first reading your story. Don't even worry about the questions because you just need to get that story under your belt. Once you've done that, look at the questions and think about which ones do you have ideas for. And I looked at both of these and this one kind of stood out to me right now. And then look at that question and ask, what really do I need to look for in the story? So what connections do you see between the way the leader in the story came about and our current desires? So what I'm really looking for are places where it talks about how Pan came about in the story. Now, so I've got the story itself open over here, and one of the first things I found, so I've read it so I can just kind of go through and skim some and really look for those places. One of the first places I found was this, and it's not exactly about how he came about, but it's about what he's like, and so I might not use it, but it's a possibility. It says, now Pan sat on the bridge, looking out at all of them, both through the large portal-like windows up there and through the network of rovers and insect cams scattered throughout Haven. So here's this leader that can see everything. So I took that, I copied and pasted it. I just moved down a little bit because I thought, this is something that I might use or might not. And I made sure and put the parentheses with the page number after it. So that's my in-text citation. Remember, in MLA, we're using author and location. And since we're only talking about one source, one story in this paper, once you mention that author and that title in the introduction, you don't have to worry about getting author in there again. If you use any other sources, you will need to do that so we can tell the difference between the other sources. But right now, all I have to do is make sure put that page number in there. You notice I put the period after it. I'll, of course, put quotation marks in just to show this is a quote. So let me go look for some more. Okay, it says there are problems. There are problems with techno-democracy, muttered Stanuel. If you're a purist like we were, you have to have the citizenry decide on everything. The sheer amount of things that a society needed decided had almost crushed them. So this is clearly some backstory. What led to this? Every minute, everyone had to decide something, pass a new law, agree to send new delegates to another station, accept taxes, divvy out taxes, pay a bill. The stream of decisions became overwhelming, constantly popping up and requiring an electronic yes or no, and research was needed for each decision. The artificial intelligence modders came up with our solution. They created intelligences that would vote just as you would if you had time to do nothing but focus on voting. They weren't real artificial intelligence. The modelers took your voting record and paired it to your buying habits, social habits, and all the other aspects of your life that were tracked in modern life to model your habits. After all, if a bank could use a financial profile to figure out an unusual purchase didn't reflect the buyer's habits and freeze an account for safety reasons, why couldn't the same black box logic be applied to voters' patterns? And Pepper snorted, "You've turned over your voting machines." Staniel shook his head, making up the headlights lamp dart from side to side. "Not machines. Us." The profiles were incredible. They modeled what voters were important enough, or that the profilers were uncertain to get right, so they only passed on the important ones on to us. They were like spam filters for voting. They freed us from the incredible flood of meaningless minutia that the daily running of government needed. But they failed. Yes and no. And so here, I'm going to take all of this. Now, I'm never going to use this much all together at once in the paper. It's just, it looks, what it does is it's just laziness. It really looks lazy. And remember, the point of the paper is for you to say something. So what do you have to say about this? So this is page 3 and 4. And so I'm going to mark where page 3 ends just in case I only use part of that. So the stream of decisions became, I'll go right over here, and it's right up here, became, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I'm not going to leave this in there if I don't end up using it as a whole, but this just reminds me what pages this came from. So that's a whole lot. I'm not going to use all of that, but again, that's about how Pan came about. I'm going to look just a little more because this may be enough. This may be all I need. So our time has run out. Okay, someone's chasing us. What are you doing? We're on the other side. Right. It's a trap. Okay, and then we have, for 5 days, Haven's populace had a ruler. So here's Pan, right? A single being whose word was law, whose thoughts were made policy. Pan stood in the center of the command console, its face lit by the light of 100 screens and the reflections off the inner rim of Haven's great wheel. He wore Oh, this is interesting. He wore a simple blue suit. Had tan skin, brown eyes, and brown hair. His androgynous face and thin body meant that had he stood in a crowd of Haven citizens, he would hardly have been noticed. He could be anybody or everybody, and I really like that because, like, right now, I'm starting to think about how, you know, when computers or algorithms are doing, you know, making decisions for us or thinking about what do people want, they're really doing this kind of overall average. And so in that case, you know, Pan's body really reflects that, in that he's androgynous. You can't tell if he's man or woman. Really looks like just kind of all the people of Haven. So it's this like huge combination. And okay, so I have some ideas, right? So I think that's good for now. So I'm just going to stop here. And now I need to go back, and I'm going to, again, what connections do you see between the way the leader in the story came about and our current desires? So I first have to say, look, I've got to say something about how he came about and then the desires. And so I want to talk about, like, here, this idea, every minute you have to decide something, right? This whole section right here. This is, first of all, you can see typed up, it's more than 4 lines. And so what's going to happen when I cite it, because if it's more than 4 typed lines, I need to indent it and set it aside. So I'm going to make a note. This is 3 through 4. Okay. And this is a paragraph, and that is a paragraph. So I'm going to show it in this way, and I'm going to get rid of, I've got some funky formatting in there when I formatted it. Okay, single, don't. Notice between here, we end up getting rid of that, and then I can put it, I would put it in 2-point, but it's going to be easier for you to see on the screen. So this is a long enough quote that I'm going to scoot it over and indent it. And when I go up here, what I'm doing is I'm just taking my evidence. We've got to have, you know, some reason we believe our thesis. And I don't know what my thesis is, but I've got to have some overall reasons. I've got to have the evidence, and I've got to have the discussion. And a lot of times it's easier just to start with the evidence. As you can see, I went through and I found these 2-3 places. We're writing a short paper here that really kind of relate to that. And now the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about, so what does this mean? That significance, that's our evidence. Or I could think about, how does this kind of come to being? Is to understand how Pan came into being. In our society, we have created robots and other machines to do work for us. I'm going to put physical work for us. Okay, work for us. Instead of creative, I'm going to say we have used work for us because I want to say for years. For years. Now we're working toward machines that can do thinking for us. Okay, I'm not quite sure where I'm going there, but that's the idea, right? Is I'm looking at this, and that's more significant, so I'm going to put it below it, and I'll fix all my font later. But this idea that, look, I mean, here's this. If you're a purist, you had to decide on everything, the sheer amounts. Okay, so I don't even know if I need this part here. I really don't. That's all 4. And that was, I was looking for where I cut it. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I really don't know if I actually need this first part. I'm going to think about it. Okay. So one of the things I want to do is kind of establish how Pan was created that I could compare to. So I'm thinking about how, we do all these things, right, to make our life easier, that we, we have robots. I mean, they're manufacturing robots. That's what a lot of factory floors are. We've taken a lot of humanity out of that. We're working toward things that do the thinking for us. So making decisions, things like that. So we kind of are inclined toward that. So I really want to set up like how the people of this story got there and then how we got there so that I can compare. And so I can't just throw in this quote and say, read this, and then here's what I think. I've got to introduce it. So in the story, we learn that the society is set up as a techno-democracy where everyone must vote on everything. I mean, we can hardly get people to the polls now in hours. That's got to be crazy. Everything. This caused problems and took this caused problems and took a great deal of time. And I want to put in this quote, I'm going to put a colon because this is a full sentence. And then I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm not just going to throw it away. I'm going to make sure and do that and make sure, put that it was on page 3 so I don't forget my citation stuff. I might want to come back to it. Here, 1, 2, 1, there's one line. Let's go back here. Let's go back here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and a half. So this is not going to be an indented quote, a long quote. So I'm just going to put it all in there like that. And here, notice that I go to the end, quote, mark, space, and then I'm going to put the period there. Okay, in the story we learn that society, and let me make this all one font, society is set up as a techno-democracy where everyone must vote on everything. This caused problems and took a great deal of time to deal with. Every minute everyone had to decide something, pass a new law, agree to send delegates to another station, accept taxes, divvy out taxes, pay a bill. The stream of decisions became overwhelming, and research was needed for each decision. Here. It's easy to understand how Pan came into being. In our society, we have robots and other machines to do, we have used, Kelly, this is why you read out loud, used robots and other machines to do physical work for us for years. Now we're working toward machines that can do thinking for us. In fact, we already have machines that can do advanced computations, and in the near future, many, if not all, of us may be moving around in driverless cars. Machines that take the guesswork out of driving. So, I mean, that's a good example there of how, and here you can see what I'm doing is I'm just kind of leading into, look, here's how this was set up, and what happened. So this is really kind of my main point of how he was overall created. And then I've got this evidence that I'm just giving this to set the stage. So sometimes you use evidence that isn't maybe directly related, but you want to be real careful with it. But then what I'm doing here is definitely saying, okay, what's the connection? And that's where, it came into being that we're doing this. So I'm making a connection. How he came into being, again, I'm going to go between the way the leader came about and any desires in our society. So there, I'm just pointing out things that are already happening, right? We do this because we know there are advantages. Because, wait, first of all, because there are many things, other things. This frees us up to do, comma, and we know there are advantages in terms of efficiency, I don't know how to spell that, and safety. Got extra space in there, so I spell check as I go along. It makes me crazy. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now. I would like there to be maybe some more connection, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so this is more about their democracy. That's again, I pulled it out there. I keep moving it down. So, which means, I'm putting it on lower priority. Now, I want to give more because this cannot be all of my essay. I need at least another paragraph or so. They created intelligence that would vote for us. Okay, so this is perfect because they created these intelligences. They weren't real artificial intelligence. They were just looking at your voting record, your buying habits. If a bank could do this, I totally want this. Right? Oh, and then I'm going to come back to this one right here. Okay, I know what I want. Okay, so here's and again, this is still on page 4, so I'm going to make sure and get that in there. I'm not sure how it's going to work into my paper, so let me just do this a little bit. So again, I want to look at this and say, what does it mean? Well, when I look at this, how does this relate to our current society? I can look at this, and they weren't real intelligences. They took your voting record, paired it with your buying habits, social habits, and he gives an example. If a bank could use your financial profile to figure out an unusual purchase and freeze your account, why couldn't the black box do the same? And this example is something that actually happens. I mean, banks will do that if they see that really unusual activity on your credit card or debit card, which is a good thing. That way we know somebody else isn't spending our money. But it is about predictability. In these examples, these are examples. These are examples of things we see in our world. Add in things like Facebook, Instagram, and other points of I'm just laughing because I think, like, what about Alexa and Google Home and our cell phones, right? Points of information, comma, it's not hard for a computer. General likes and dislikes. Okay, so these are examples of things we see in our world. Add in Facebook, like Instagram, and other points of information. It's not hard for a computer to come up with our general likes and dislikes. I think I might move this to the first of the paragraph, but I'm going to take another moment. I'm going to go back to my question. current desires in our society. So I know we also use things like this so that we don't have to think about many of these simple, basic tasks in life. We trust our much of our memory to our cell phones. Let's say smartphones. Just come along with even more information so that we can take shortcuts and have the computers do it for us. I don't quite like that. That'll get smoothed out later. Here's when you use your thesaurus. Click on synonyms, processors, mainstays, work. None of those. If you're like, if there's a word out there and I don't know what it is, it's a good place. Okay, so I really want to take this up here so that this starts before the quote. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is totally going to be, a block quote. So here I want to put in that sentence, okay? These are examples. These are, okay. How about there are many, many examples of similarities between our world and the world that, I want to use the author's name. Once in a while, it's good to drop that in. I mean, it's just part of the structure of the literary essay. And so we have Buckle, right? So this is Tobias S. Buckle. I'm assuming I'll already have his name up there in his full name in the introduction. So here I'm only going to use his last name. Between our world and that, and the one that Buckle. Okay, wait. See, paste, plain. Whenever you paste, make sure it matches the font. I mean, there's nothing so telling or frustrating to a reader when like they encounter this different font for no reason at all. Many examples of similarities between our world and the one that Buckle has created. And then I'm just going to say things like Facebook, Instagram, and other points of information that are not hard with things. That should be with, okay. With things like Facebook, Instagram, and other points of information, it's not hard for a computer to come up with general likes and dislikes. In the case of resistance, I'm talking about the name of the story. In the case of resistance, comma, then my quote marks. This is an introductory phrase, some of our extra information. The citizens of this space station had the same kinds of technologies and used them to take over voting. I'm just going to put a boom. That's the end of a sentence. So I'm going to put that colon in there, and then I'm going to have this block quote here. So remember, we've got to have this kind of introduction to our paragraph, our topic sentence. What are we talking about? We've got to have the evidence, and then we've got to have what it means, at least a sentence or two after it. Don't just drop a quote in and not talk about it. And don't not integrate it. Like if I put a period here, then it's just floating on its own. It's those eggs on the top of the cake mix and not mixing it up and putting it in the oven, and you pull it out and you're like, that's not a cake, that's like gross stuff with baked fried eggs on top of it. So we've got to integrate things. All right, so basically I've said, look, here they're similar. We also use things like this so we don't have to think about many of the basic tasks in life. We trust much of our memory to our smartphones along with even more information so that we can take shortcuts and have computers do it for us. In short, oh, I want to say, well, I want to say in short, we want the easy answer, but I really want that short comma, both we and the citizens of the space station want the easy answer. We want to take a pill and be immediately cured. Let's just put a period. Let's make a series of sentences. We want to do one exercise and have the perfect body. We want to watch the video. I'm not bringing you down here or anything, but video and have all the education. Yet we can't. If we, or no, when we stop participating in our lives, not simply on a physical level, but also on an intellectual level, by making decisions about our government and our society. When we stop that, we lose much of I'm going to go out on a limb here and say humanity. It's a little overblown, but we'll figure it out. In looking at and comparing our society to, what was his name? Buckles. So this is an apostrophe. It belongs to him. So we get Buckles, and then again treat the title correctly. Resistance. And comparing our society to Buckles in resistance, because it's society in resistance. And this gets a comma. So inside those quote marks, remember periods and commas inside the final quotes. Buckles in resistance. There are similarities. In their world, it took the algorithm, I don't know how to spell it, right? Which is basically Pan, right? Because all he is this conglomerate of the algorithm. Took the algorithm taking over to make them value what they had given up and previously. I don't want to say despised, but like that's the word that's coming to mind, but that's like despised. It's like so huge. So hated, reviled, loathed. How about shunned? So, they detested. Oh, shunned. I like that. Let's see. What they had resistance in their world, it took the algorithm taking over to make them, that's not right, to make them value what they'd given up and previously shunned. How far we will go in letting computers, whether intelligent or not, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my spelling, take over our decisions and lives is not clear. However, what is clear, is that we are on the way there, much like the residents of the space station, because we are overwhelmed, overburdened. Oh yeah, let's make it dramatic. I'm just gonna, I can't think of anything else. Overwhelmed and overburdened. I'm not sure I need much else. Let's see. In short, let me see. We're gonna put an introduction on this. I'm gonna spell check here. We're gonna put an introduction algorithm. That is part of what's wrong. No, I will figure that out. However, I'll figure that out before too long. Whether intelligent. That doesn't even look like intelligent. It's not intelligent to spell it that way. I'm such a dork. I'll go rhythm. Okay, there's something wrong there. Okay, how do you spell rhythm? R. R. This one. Rhythm. Okay. Then what's the problem? Is your spelling like mine? So bad? You have to ask Google. Algorithm, step by step, contained, self-contained. There's the spelling. Let's go to the paper, not the story. Paste it, but oh wait, hold on, Z. So I'm going to go over here to paste, and I'm just going to paste it plain, right? And then it'll go in there, okay? And of course that should be there. Okay, so what this does was I just kind of looked at all of it and said, let me sum it up. Now, what I have left, and this is a really, really rough draft, and we'll read through it in a minute and see if it makes any sense at all. But what I have left is I need to have the introduction. Now, with the introduction, I want that thesis, right? So what connections do you see between the way the leader in the story, Pan, came about and any of our current desires in society? Well, that thesis, it just, this equals answer. So what is my answer to this? In reading, oh, let's get all his name. Now's a good time to get in Tobias Bucknell's, S. Bucknell, copy. Right here, we're going to do this. Nope, I'm going to go to the right one. In reading, paste, plain, okay. Tobias Bucknell's story, resistance. It's clear there are a number of connections between their world and ours. Now, what I want to look at is that, okay, I've got it take a great deal of time. We're working to machines that can do thinking for us. So what I'm really looking at is I'm looking over the kind of first part of this and kind of end of what I'm saying, and I'm trying to just put it all in one concise sentence. They use those. We use things like that. We trust much of our memory to do this. We want an easy answer. Previously shunned. How far we will go. So I really think the connections are that in reading Thomas L. Bucknell's story, it's clear that there are a number of connections between their world and or his world. Let's say his, because he created it. His world and ours. Overall, like most humans, we and them, they and we, they are seeking, we and they, we are all seeking, all often seeking an easier route. Oh, you know what I want to say is down here, overwhelmed and overburdened. The question is whether we will discover that we do not want that easy road, easy route. Because of the cost to our freedoms. I don't know, something like that. cost to our freedoms. Easier route. Okay, so that's the similarity. I'm going to be okay with that right now. Again, I'm just drafting. But here's the thing, that's not a paragraph, right? That's like 2 sentences. So what I want to do is I want to come in with something that's kind of bigger, that's going to introduce us to the subject. And I'm just going to go to like, what are the things I think of the most, right? I mean, what applies to me? What's similar in this world? In our world, O-R-L-D, people, no. Let's see. In our world, advertisers and marketers use the information we provide through social media, our buying habits, and our inquiries, our questions. I mean, every time I ask a question to Google or my phone or anything like that, those things are used. They use that to make decisions about what we might like, or just what we might like. Okay, it's not uncommon to, oh, it's a growing field. That's where we're going. It is a growing field in research and marketing, and shows little signs of slowing down. In fact, very few laws in this country, there are a little more in Europe, have been successful in curtailing, so that's just stopping or slowing down, in curtailing this movement. In reading Tobias S. Bucknell's story, Resistance, it's clear there are a number, but this is something that has been also pushed by each of us as users. We want convenience. We want technology to take over the easy tasks, and we want to worry about the little things less. In reading Tobias Bucknell's story Resistance, it's clear there are a number of connections between his world and ours. Overall, like most humans, we are often seeking the easier route, and while in his story, that route had some protections built in our story, it might not. I just like the way that ends more. Okay, so let's try this out, read this through, and see what happens overall. See if it works as a rough draft. Okay, in our world, advertisers and marketers use information we provide through social media, our buying habits, and our inquiries to make decisions about what we might like. I just think I like searches better. Sometimes we think like the big words better, but this is really better because everybody does a search, right? It's a growing field in research and marketing and shows little signs of slowing down. In fact, very few laws in this country have been successful in curtailing this movement. But this is something that has also been pushed by each of us as users. Again, value of reading out loud. We want convenience, we want technology to take over the easy task, and we want to worry about the little things less. In reading Tobias S. Bucknell's story Resistance, it's clear there are a number of connections between his world and ours. Overall, like most humans, we are often left We are often seeking an easier route, and while in his story that route has some protections built in our story, it might not. In the story, we learn that the society is set up that society is set up as a techno-democracy where everyone must vote on everything. This caused problems and took a great deal of time. And there's the quote, research was needed for each decision. It's easy to understand how Pan came into being. In our society, we have used robots and other machines to do physical work for us for years. Now we are working toward machines that can do thinking for us. In fact, we already have machines that can do advanced computations, and in the near future, many, if not all of us, may be moving around in driverless cars, machines that take the guesswork out of driving. We do this because there are many other things this frees us up to do, and we know there are advantages in terms of efficiency and safety. There are many examples of the okay, so see now, since this is a second paragraph, that transition doesn't work. So let me just change this so that we have a similar, that's not actually the calibrate one. There we go. Another example of similarities between ours. So, example of similarities between our world and the world that Bucknell has created is our interconnected, oh, that's horrible, interconnected is the backbone of how our information is disseminated. Okay, so disseminated just means put out there, how it's spread around, and that is how it's spelled. With things like Facebook, Instagram, and other ports of information, it's not hard for a computer to come up with our general likes and dislikes. In the case of resistance, the citizens of this space station had the same kinds of technologies and used them to take over voting. And then it, talks about what it did. So I have that quote. We also use things like this so that we don't have to think about many simple basic tasks in life. And here's where I'm going to come back later, and I'm definitely going to want to, I'm just going to mark that there. I'm definitely going to want to put in kind of, so what is it, right? Give some examples. We trust much of our memory to smartphones along with even more information so that we can take shortcuts and have the computers do things for us. Okay, not bad so far. In short, both we and the citizens of the space station want the easy answer. We want to take a pill and be immediately cured. We want one exercise. We want to do one exercise and have the perfect body. We want to watch the video and have all the education, yet we can't. When we stop participating in our lives not simply on a physical level, but also on an intellectual level, by making decisions about our government and our society, we lose much of our humanity. In comparing our society to Bucknell's in resistance, there are similarities, something like that. In their world, it took the algorithm taking over to make them value what they had given up and previously shunned. How far will we go in letting computers, whether intelligent or not, take over our decisions and lives is not clear. However, what is clear is that we are on the way there, much like the residents of this space station, because we are overwhelmed and overburdened. Just a list of two things. The question is whether we will discover that we do not want that easy route because of the cost to our freedoms, or if we'll adopt it and give up our independence. Independence for convenience. I cannot spell convenience, nor independence. Okay, so question is whether we will discover that we do not want that easy route because of the cost to our freedoms, or if we'll adopt it and give up our independence for convenience. And I'm just saying that is the question, not asking a question. Similarities. Let's see if that gets it. Yay, close enough. Okay, so let's just look at this just real quick. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the rest of this because I'm like, don't need it anymore. All right. I'm going to, here, I'm going to make it small so I can get rid of all the extra spaces. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that and tab. I'm going to go up here. And like I said, this is rough, but it is a draft. It's not bad. I'm going to see, I'm going to, think about going back into that space. Control A is going to give me all of that. I'm going to go into my paragraph, and I want to make sure that's 0, and this is don't, and then we want double, and we say OK, and then I'm going to get rid of that question, and then I can put in, let's spell my name right, Wood, and write this for Professor Wood. And this is, what is today? It is March 1st, 2018. English 1301. I got to give this a title. I'm not going to call it Resistance. Resistance is Bucknell's title. How about something like not resisting, right? Like taking the easy route. Warnings in Tobias. Where's his name? Yeah. Actually, I use a lot of this, so I will watch that in Tobias. I guess he wants T there. Tobias Bucknell's Resistance. Okay. Ooh, fancy. Snap, snap. Check it out. Check it out. That's like 3 pages, and I still got to go in here, and I got to do my citation. I'm going to put in work cited. Notice right here, this is scooched over. I'm going to go back, so when I center, it actually centers it up right. And then I'm going to go back over here, and then I'm going to say, hey, how do I cite a, what is this we've got here? If we were going to cite this, let's check it out real quick. Essay 2, let's see where it's at. This is Resistance right here. This is on this website, Seeds of Change. Okay, this is like his magazine, not Tobias Bucknell's, but this other guy's, John Joseph Adams. But it's called Seeds of Change. Okay, I know that. You don't know that, you ask an English teacher, ask a librarian. That's their deal. Okay, so I want to have I'm definitely going to need the URL. When I go to writing down the basics, and I'm going to go to MLA documentation style, and this is an article, magazine, journal. What I need is web page or article. So I'm going to have Bucknell, I'm going to have it just like this. Okay, here, let me just copy this, and it'll make life easier. Okay, there we go. Let's make this bigger so we can see it. All right, so I want, actually, I want to go back to the first, and I just want to copy this again. I'm so lazy. Oh, I just noticed. There we go. Very lady. Lazy. Very lady. You lazy lady? Okay. Okay. But I've got to have, and this is all going to be on the left-hand side. So I'm going to have Bucknell, Thomas S. This over here, get rid of that apostrophe. Comma, Tobias S. I know that a period goes there. Okay, then I've got to have, see, period, container, website title in italics, and it was called Seeds of Change. Don't put whatever it is, .com, whatever. Put the name of the actual website, okay? Major word capitalized, publisher if different. So this is different because I told you this guy, John Joseph Adams, is actually the guy, you can see it's on his website. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put John Joseph Adams. I did that wrong. And publisher if different, there's a comma. So, and then the date, now is there a date here? Okay, there's not one here. Not one at the top, but you always look and see if there's a date, okay? When it was posted or uploaded, nothing at the bottom. We have this copyright, but that's really for his whole website. So what we do when we don't have an actual date is we put n, small n, period, D, period for no date, and there was a comma after date, and then the location, easy peasy lemon squeezy. We copy that URL, go back over here, paste it in, and then enter, and that's going to make it a hyperlink. We want to get rid of that. It's in, this is for, you're turning it in ultimately as a print source, so you want to get rid of that. And the other thing, notice, and I'm going to get rid of some of this space here. The other thing, notice we want to make that, do that hanging indent where it's scooched over. So remember, paragraph, indentation, hanging. Okay, I still have a space here. Let's see if we can, that looks better. Remove hyperlink. Okay, there we go. We're excited. Last thing, I need my header, my last name, not yours. I mean, like, you put your own on your paper. I wrote this paper, so it is by Kelly Wood. So I'm going to put my own in it, current position, and I just want the plain one right there. I'm going to make sure this is in 12-point font, right? Same as my paper. So if you changed your paper to anything other than Calibri or the standard, make sure and change this, okay? This is still 12-point font. Okay, so what do I have? I have done, let's see how much time this has taken. Too much, I can tell already. I don't know, hold on. Quite a bit of time, but anyway, in that time, I have done a basic literary essay. So I hope this helps you. I'm not sure if it will, but if it does, let me know.